braving the hurricane, coming out today. And there's a lot of weather out there, there's a lot of mental weather as well. And hopefully we'll escape the worst of it tonight. Welcome to, I'm going to give another speech here, so should I parse this? With the mayor out of town, City Council member Scott Bader has graciously agreed to provide the city's official opening greeting for the Everett Massacre Centennial series. Scott served on the City Council since 2012, serving as council president in 2015. He's also a past council liaison to the Library Board of Trustees. And he, his wife, and children are all active library users. So I'll turn it to Scott for the benediction or whatever we call it.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Good to be here. I can remember first reading about the Everett Massacre probably when I was 12, reading Milltown. Not being a Everett native, and my family's are not Everett natives. My family's from Tacoma. Was certainly information that I never heard from my family. I imagine many of you have roots far deeper in this community than I do, and know much of this information about the massacre from your grandparents and great-grandparents, perhaps. But I'm glad to be here this afternoon, and I want to thank you for coming as well. I especially want to thank those who put together this series, and it's an exciting, momentous series that hopefully, again, the library will continue to build on, and all the good things the library does as well. We're lucky to live and fortunate to live in a community that cares about our history, and we're even more fortunate, obviously, to have knowledgeable historians and city staff on hand, historians such as David Dilgard, Lisa Lovich, and Cameron Johnson right here in our Everett library system, as well as regional experts on Everett history you'll hear about in subsequent weeks. Most of the emphasis on our city's infamous massacre focuses on the fact that the violence that came out of it. But we know and we'll learn more about the fact that there's so much more to that. First of all, I think learning about it reminds us how much our history and our times have changed in the past 100 years in Everett, in the nation, throughout the world as well. Also, reminding or thinking about the Everett Massacre makes us hope and plan and pray that it would be unlikely that a protest like this or a rallying event such as this would end in violence, let alone the terrible loss of life that occurred in 1916. It emphasizes also, as we learn, that many of the issues that the parties were fighting for and over are still relevant to this day. For these reasons, we need to continue to explore our history to help us learn how to plan for our future as well. So this is a very exciting series to look forward to over the next several weeks. Thank you for embracing Everett's history and past, as well as our future, with us today. And I'd like to now hand over to Cameron to lead us into the next half hour. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. My name is Cameron Johnson. I'm a reference librarian here. One of the things I've been tasked with the last year was to help put together and coordinate a series on the Everett Massacre Centennial. The Centennial is coming up on November 5th, and we thought it fitting to take a look at what the massacre was, and particularly its context and background. A lot of people have done work on speculating as to who fired the first shot and how many guns were there and what the caliber of each gun was and how many bullets were expended and so forth. We're not as interested in that, although I think Denise Ohio's film on November 5th, the very day of the massacre, very 100th anniversary, might talk about some of that because she's done a lot of work in studying the ballistic evidence and so forth. But really what we would like to do with this series is to examine the background and context of the events, to understand why they happened the way they did, what the conditions were in the city and nationwide that made such industrial strife a pretty common occurrence in 1916. In fact, just 2 days before the shingle weavers went on strike on May 1st, 1916, the Congress released a 11-volume study on industrial relations in the United States. And it goes into great detail. They interviewed tens of thousands of people to find out why there were so many strikes and so much labor strife in the United States. And indeed, at the time of the Everett Massacre, and when the shingle weavers first went on strike on May 1st, there were 3 major strikes right here in Everett. And there was a national railroad strike threatened that entire summer, and dozens of strikes in other cities across the country. So we were really interested in trying to fit Everett into this larger picture as well. So that's our aim here. I'd like to ask people to silence their cell phones now, please. And I want to mention that we are filming this event. Laura back there is filming it for us. We will put up a film of it up onto our YouTube channel as soon as we can get to that. So if somebody misses it and wants to see it, they can do that. I should say that our staff has put a ton of hard work into this, and this is probably the most complicated series that we've ever tried to put on here. And everybody's done it in a sometimes uncharacteristically uncomplaining way, so it's been great. We've had superb support, and we appreciate that. But changes do happen in an event like this, and I want to say that if you want to come to multiple events and want to know what the latest schedule is, you look on our website. We've been constantly updating our printed schedule, which there are several at the back to take, and those are the most up to date. But www.epls.org/EMC for Everett Massacre Centennial, www.epls for Everett Public Library System.org/EMC for the latest changes. And I have changed to announce today because of the weather. Our first presenter, Jason Ripper, is a professor at Everett Community College, but he lives in Bellingham. And he called in and said that he could not attend today because of the forecast conditions. He's a family man, and so we're going to try to get him in on one of the other Saturdays that we're holding this series. So that'll be an extended day, and hopefully we can do that. So in compensation, and because we thought people might come in at 3 o'clock to see the film The Wobblies, we are going to show that film twice. So as soon as we're done here, we'll start it up, and then again, we'll show it again at 3. And let me say a bit about each day of the series. On Saturday, October 22nd, Doug Koenig will be here. He's the communication director at the ACLU Washington, and he'll be talking about the free speech fights of the industrial workers of the world. And people don't generally know, I think, that there were about 30 of those events where the IWW insisted on making political speech on streets, and they had a particular strategy that they used, and Mr. Honey's going to talk about that. And David Dilgard will be here as well to talk about wobbly propaganda art. I don't know if you've seen, I see some people in the audience with the red scaredy cat. The Wobblies had some gifted artists and musicians and so forth, and they put out some really stunning stickers and posters and so forth, and David's going to talk about those. That is October 22nd. Saturday, October 29th, Deb Fox. She's done a new graphic novel about the Everett Massacre. It is quite stunning. It's a pencil or charcoal drawing. It's for sale for only $5 up in our coffee shop, and they've been going pretty quickly, so take a look. It's beautifully drawn and put out by Historic Everett. $5. $5. And Fred Bird's going to come in that day. He's from the Labor Press Project at the University of Washington, and he's going to talk about news coverage of Everett Massacre related events, both in the local mainstream press here in Everett and the radical press. And there was a lot of radical press in Everett at that time because there was a lot of radicals in Everett at that time. It was a far different place than 2016 Everett. It was more okay to have radical ideas back then. On Sunday, October 30th, we're going to show the film cuts. I don't know how many of you have seen this. It was back in the old days when we were working with film, 60mm film. This guy rolled up on his motorcycle back in the early 70s and offered to sell this film he made about shingle weaving. And he turned out to be a former shingle worker and who had become a student at the Evergreen State College. And he made this film as one of his projects. And it's a brilliant film about the unimaginable work that shingle weavers do and how they live and so forth. And to go along with that, he located a shingle weaver, a real-life shingle weaver, who lives up near Oso, a guy named Bill Marcantel. And he's going to come in. He was so excited when he saw that film cuts. He's going to come in and talk about shingle weaving and what we saw in the film. He said he never worked at that mill, but he knew of it. He knew people who had, and he knows that mill and shingle weaving like the back of his hand. So he's going to come in. And then after that, on October 30th, I'm going to talk about the shingle weaver strike of 1916. That was one of the events, or event that's probably related to the Everett Massacre, in that the industrial workers of the world came in at that time, partially at least in support of the shingle weaver strike, and their free speech efforts on the city of Everett led to repercussions, which finally led to the gunfire on the dock there on November 5th. So that is October 30th. Saturday, November 5th, Denise, Ohio's Verona. Denise, Ohio, she's a filmmaker from Monroe. She's been working on and off on this film for at least 10 years. And I've talked to her before. She's talked to David in the Northwestern. She has probably got a good grasp as anybody as to what happened. And she put together this film. It's finally the culmination of all this work. And it should be a great take on it. That is Saturday, November 5th, and then she will entertain questions along with David Dilgard. So that's November 5th, the actual anniversary. And November 6th, we've got a very interesting program. Superior Court Judge Jim Rogers is going to come in and give a contemporary take on the trial of Thomas Tracy. Tracy was one of the 74 Wobblies that were arrested after they got back to Seattle from the Everett Massacre. But the only one that came to trial was Thomas Tracy. And he was defended by a very high-profile lawyer named George Vanderveer and another really good lawyer, too. And Judge Rogers is very interested in historic trials and everything. He seems like just the guy to talk about it. So that should be fun. And finally, on November 6th, we're bringing in a musical group called Rebel Voices. They're a spin-off of the Seattle Labor Chorus, and they're going to give their interpretation of songs of the industrial workers of the world. And I don't know how many of you have heard some of those songs, but they're very witty and extremely cutting works. Quite inspired, really, sung to commonly known tunes. So that should be a big treat. We've made up some story forms. They're on the back table there for people to grab. And what we'd like is if you want to talk about the Everett Massacre, any kind of personal reminiscences or comments or thoughts about the series, to write those down, and then we will display them in the Northwest Room. We may, if we put together a more extended description of the program. We may use some of his comments as well, so they're at the back table there. Also the latest printed schedule, but again, for the latest stuff, go to our website, www.epls/EMC. I wanted to mention another event that's happening. Friday, November 4th, Jason Webley's going to be giving a concert over at the Historic Everett Theater, what he calls 100 Years Ago Tomorrow. And I don't know how many of you seen saw Jason's work on Margaret, about Margaret Rucker that he did a year and a half, 2 years ago. But he promises something related, and it should be a very inventive take, an artistic take on the Everett Massacre. We just had something new happen. This effort has kind of grown wings here. Just this week, there is a painting by Jack Gunther. He's a Stanwood artist. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Jack's work. He's quite a well-known artist. Somewhat whimsical themes in some of his art. But they have down in the Labor Temple a painting of the Everett Massacre that Jack did. Actually, it's a mural. It's like 3 by 8, I believe it is. Well, we tried to get the Labor Council to release that to us, and finally Jack himself intervened and talked to them, and now it is up on our second floor. It's behind the reference desk where the Titanic used to be. We've temporarily relocated the Titanic, so don't panic. And so that's going to be there for a month. And go up and have a look. We're going to get Jack in. We're hoping to get Jack in. We got a verbal agreement to get Jack in to actually talk about and interpret that. So there's going to be another artistic take on the Everett Massacre. So have a look at that. Also, we've got other things going. The schedules are at the back. We've got discussions of Milltown, Milltown, who was written by Norman H. Clark, who's the former president of Everett Community College, and magisterial take on the early history of Everett, including up through the Everett Massacre. And so David Dilgard and Lisa Labovich will be holding book discussions, and there are a couple of them, I think at least. And our Evergreen branch is holding a Labor on the Silver Screen film series, so take a look at that as well. With that, I think we are going to, we got questions. Yes, sir.
One more event. The IWW itself will be commemorating the massacre on November 5th. They're passing out the leaflets. So regional members of the IWW will be present from Bellingham. We'll have people from Vancouver, DC, all the way down to Portland, where they're currently organizing the Burgerville restaurant chain.
Okay, we're going to start the film. This is a film that was produced in 1979 by Stuart Bird and Deborah Schaffer. And Deborah has kindly given her blessing to our showing it during this series. And it's a pretty stunning film if you haven't seen it. Stick around, and we're going to then show it again at 3 o'clock because we thought people just might show up to see the movie, so we're going to want to see them go home disappointed as well. So we're going to show it twice. Maybe you want to see it twice. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Where is your home? Cook County Jail. Before that, County Jail, Cleveland, Ohio. And before that, City Jail, Akron, Ohio. What? Are you a citizen? No, I'm an industrial worker of the world.
Everybody here okay?
Vancouver, BC, and the Chinaman couldn't pronounce W, and so he called it I wobble wobble. And so out of I wobble wobble came the one wobbly.